Your fourth objective in Pre-Calc Honors Unit 2 is to be able to build polynomial regression models, specifically cubic functions of best fit. You should be familiar with how to use your calculator to input data, calculate a line of best fit, a quadratic regression model perhaps, and so now we're going to focus on cubic, but you also need to be able to analyze and tell, well, when would one model work better than another model? So we're going to talk about that as well. But the first thing we want to do is input the data. So we do that by understanding we're looking at statistics here, and that reminds us that we have to push the stat button. And to input the data, we want to just hit enter or the number 1 for edit. So we're going to edit our lists. If you have any data in any list that you're going to be entering other data into, you can clear the list. Like if I had some data in here already, whatever, I could clear the list by highlighting the name of the list and then hitting the clear button, clear, enter, and it just clears the list. So just in case you had any data there, you can clear that data, and so we can input the new data. So we notice the first column of data contains the year in which the data was collected. So the year 1, the profit in millions of $1.1 million for the first year of profits, and then the second year, $1.7 million was the profit for that company. So 8 years, so we're going to just type in the numbers 1 through 8 in our first list. I always use the first list to represent the independent variable values, and then the second list I would enter in the data for the dependent variable and make sure the data matches up, make sure that oops, I missed that 1.4 there. I always check and make sure you're inputting the data correctly, and 2.1 for the last one. So always double check, and again, make sure that you input the data correctly. So once we've input the data, it says to just find a cubic function of best fit to the data. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that, but I also want to show you the difference between the cubic and the quadratic and the linear, and to see, because you also have to make sure you know why to pick one function over the other. So let's go ahead and first of all look at that scatter plot. And to do that, there's a couple ways to do that. I like to just go to the y equals, hit the up arrow, select plot 1 by hitting enter, and you can move by using the down arrow the cursor away from plot 1 just to check and make sure that plot 1 has been selected. And then to see a scatter plot, if you push the zoom button, you get a window of presets, and we're going to go ahead and hit number 9 for the zoom stat. And you could scroll down and hit enter, or you could just type a 9 and you should see a scatter plot. So you always want to look at the scatter plot first, because then you can make a decision as to what kind of function you believe would best fit that data. So when we look at that, it already again says use a cubic function, but it might be quadratic. It could be, quadratic would not, as I look at that scatter plot, I'm thinking, okay, quadratic's probably not it, definitely not linear. But maybe a fourth degree polynomial as well. So to be able to let the calculator kind of determine the best fit for that data, I want you to push the mode button. And when you push the mode button, you scroll all the way down to where it says stat diagnostics, and you want to make sure you turn those on, because that's going to allow the calculator to tell you which one of those functions is best for the data. And I'm not a stats guy, but I do know there's a couple things here I'm looking for, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So go ahead and hit stat. Once you've turned it on, the diagnostics on, hit stat, and we're going to calculate. So right arrow to that. If we thought initially that linreg, a linear regression model, would be best, then we would hit 4. We'd type a 4 or scroll down to 4 and hit enter. And we're going to store that, taking our list 1, list 2, and making a linear regression model. We're going to store it in y1. The way we do that is by pushing the vars key. It's just to the left of the clear button. And then the right arrow for y variables, function mode, enter, and then y1's already selected, so we hit enter. and then enter again, and then enter again for calculate. And this is the key value right here, the r squared, that 0.244. My interpretation, just kind of a layman's terms, is that's about a 24% good model for that data. And if you graph the line through that scatter plot, you can see it's not a very good fit. So I'm going to pause or stop the video here and start a new one to show you the rest of this problem.